This is a football podcast, man. Meat, football, good. Man, we talk football. We eat burgers. Welcome back to Scramble Drill, the fantasy football show where fantasy football is over, but we're still talking about football. And I'm enjoying myself. Across from me is Landon Davis. Josh couldn't make it tonight, so Landon and I will be holding down the fort ourselves. Absolutely carrying the team. It's impressive, honestly. It's really impressive. Some would say greatness is what you're witnessing right now. Some would say, not all of them, but some. Some for sure. Mm-hmm. Landon, how you doing?
Feeling good. Got a crazy busy week, but we're getting through it.
Made time out of your schedule to do this.
I did.
It was an interesting weekend. There's no real news in the NFL world to talk about right now, other than, I guess, you mentioned this before the show, Matthew Stafford confirming he's coming back for 2025, which is good news, I'd say.
Yeah, it's good news. I mean, good news for obviously Puka. I mean, goodness gracious.
Big time for Puka. Because obviously, that's like one of the big knocks the dynasty community tries to put on him is, what's his quarterback situation going to look like in the future? I'm like, well, after Stafford, we don't know, but as long as Stafford's there, he's going to be awesome. And he'll be good without Stafford, too.
Yeah, so, I mean, it's great for him. I kind of thought this was going to be – I thought he was coming back. I don't know why. He's never said this, but I've always thought, like, he'll be playing in 25 and then retire. So I would not be shocked at all. I would have been pretty surprised if he would have retired this offseason. I won't be shocked at all if he retires next offseason. I could easily see that being the end. But
I'm kind of there. I would have been more surprised if he wasn't coming back than that he is, so – I'm excited. I have no issues with Stafford. I've always liked him.
No.
Okay. It was a tough weekend. A lot of the things we were pulling for didn't happen. None of the things I was pulling for happened. One thing you were pulling for did happen. We were all together for the NFC for the championship weekend. We watched your Commanders play the Eagles. We watched my guy Allen play your guy Mahomes. And it was a good game. It was a really good game to watch. Mm-hmm. We'll start in the NFC. Get that one. There's less to say about this game. Still stuff to say.
Right.
But I would say less to dive in with the NFC Championship. I guess Landon, take it away. Let's go down where you're thinking first.
Yeah, we'll start with the Commanders. I mean, it's kind of what we knew. What we knew was, man, these rosters are not even close, and we said it over and over again. They are not even close. And if you watch that game, there were moments where it looked like we were watching like Alabama versus Vanderbilt about 5 years ago, where it was just like. They just got better athletes. They are faster. They are stronger. They are pushing us around. Their receivers are faster. Their DB. I mean, it just looked different. And we knew that going in. We said, like, I made the statement, if the Commanders win this game, it's going to be a big indictment on Jalen Hurts because, like, those two rosters are not the same. And then, obviously, Jalen played great. But the thing that hurts as a Commanders fan, and you look at the score and it was a blowout, the thing that hurts as a Commanders fan is before the fourth quarter started, I think it was like 35-23-ish. It was right. They had 35. We had like 23. And at that time, we had 3 turnovers. And the thing that hurts is it was 3 guys that you do not want deciding the game.
It was what?
It was Jeremy McNichols, De'Ami Brown, and Austin Eckler.
It's not those prime guys, Austin Eckler either.
No. Those are not the guys you want where you say the 3 biggest plays of the game were this. You don't want those 3 guys to be what's follows that sentence. And that's what it was. We turned it over 3 times. And when
you
you're
don't really
playing
have any other
team,
guys, though. That's the problem.
Yeah. When you're playing a team where you're that outmatched, you can't make mistakes. You're going to get smushed if you make mistakes. And I said last week, our only path is similar to the Lions' path. Jayden's got to be awesome, and we got to turn him over at least 2 times, and we have to play clean. They don't turn it over. We turn it over 4 times in the end, but 3 times when the game was kind of in balance.
I don't count Jayden's because y'all were already up by like 20 at that point. He was doing everything he can just to figure out a miracle.
Right.
And what's crazy is I don't know if y'all lose if you don't turn it over. Because you kept saying before the game, he's like, dude, we have to win the turnover battle. I'm like, if y'all are even with them at 0,
it would have been this. So they got 3 points. They got 21 points off 3 turnovers before the fourth quarter. And it was like 35-23, I want to say. It might have been 22 or 21, but it was right around there. I think it was 23. And they had 21 points off turnovers. So, I mean, if you just say, like, if we just get 2 field goals out of those drives, I mean, that's 6 points. And if we can play better field position and they just get 2 touchdowns and 1 field goal, that's 4 points less. That's a 10-point swing right there. Just that. And I don't think that's a lot to ask, from those field positions that we gave up, because we gave them the ball inside the 30. I mean, we gave them the ball over midfield with the Eckler fumble. I mean, it was atrocious. And when you're playing a team that much better, you can't make mistakes and expect to win. And what happened happened. The thing that's going to get lost is Jayden played really well.
He was awesome, dude. He was the reason y'all were really in the first place.
Absolutely.
Like, I'm not talking about just that game, but like before the turnovers started piling up, like it was close, and like he was single-handedly, I think the Eagles were concerned with the way Jayden was moving the ball.
Yeah. Even after one of the turnovers, it was 13-12. Yeah. Like, it was 13-12. And we had turned it over, and they got a touchdown off the turnover. And it was still 13-12. And we missed the 2-point conversion, 14-12. It was 14-12. And we had just missed a 2-point conversion to tie it up. Like, it was that close of a game. He was playing really well. He had the touchdown to Terry. And then he had the rushing touchdown also, which was an awesome play. And he was taking care of the ball. He was doing what he needed to do. And the guys around him let him down. Even with the rosters mismatched as they were. You're right. If we don't turn it over, it's at least a 1-score game in the fourth quarter. Now, who knows? Maybe they step on the gas and leave us like they did. But it would have been a 1-score game in the fourth quarter. And that kid has proved he's good in those moments. So it was obviously a blowout. It got ugly at the end. In the fourth quarter, it got ugly. And I hate that it's going to get lost how well Jayden played.
Yeah, no, I told you before the game, and you definitely agreed. Like, if this thing is close in the fourth quarter, I'm picking Washington because the Eagles are going to be worried if Jayden's close with them, and I really think Jayden would have made plays in the fourth quarter. The whole game, I mean, you're watching him. He was money on third down, fourth down. Gotta have it situations. He hit it every single time.
He was.
He has the clutch factor. Like he's got it. He's that guy.
Yeah, he does. The only 2 players that you could say played well are him and Terry. No one else was ready for the moment. The moment was too big for him, and then we were just too outmatched. And just looking forward-wise, this is a huge offseason for Washington. Huge.
Yeah.
Like, we've got to get probably at least one stud and 5 starters between free agency and the draft. We've got to. The roster is still probably 2 off seasons away from really being like a legit Super Bowl contender. We'll be like fringe contenders next year with a good off season.
Playoffs next year.
Yeah, we'll be like fringe contenders with a good off season. With 2 good off seasons, we might be in like, okay, it's time to win a Super Bowl tier. I still believe. I mean, it's going to be hard to say it's not Jayden if they win the Super Bowl in 2 weeks. But I still believe going into next year, there's no player in the NFC I'd rather have on my team than Jayden Daniels. I would rather have Stafford, Goff, Hurts, and I get it. Like Justin Jefferson is better at receiver than Jayden is at quarterback. Saquon is better at receiver than Jayden is at quarterback. But when I say he's the best player in the NFC, I mean he plays quarterback, and there's nobody I'd rather have. I mean, he's the most valuable player in the NFC, I guess, is a way.
There's not a single team in the NFC who wouldn't trade their quarterback straight up for Jayden Daniels.
Right.
Not one single team.
That's exactly right.
If you offer Jayden Daniels to Jalen Hurts, the
age,
Eagles accept that immediately.
Yeah. Yeah, I think if you switch the quarterbacks, Washington either doesn't make the playoffs or definitely gets bounced by the Bucs, and then the Eagles are favored to win the Super Bowl right now. I think if Jayden's their quarterback.
The Eagles,
but Jayden was great.
Are the best team. The best team in the NFL.
Yeah. Yeah, the last thing I'll say about Washington that just shows how big of a disadvantage they're at is I was watching a segment on NFL Live this week on YouTube. They had a segment of like, what's the offseason going to look like for Washington? And you know what they said? My takeaway from their conversation was they need to add a receiver, they need to add a corner, they need to add a defensive lineman, and they need to add a linebacker. And that they didn't even mention what I think their biggest need is, which is offensive tackle. So basically the takeaway was they need everything. They said they need every single position. They said they got to add secondary, D-line, receiver. And I'm like, okay, well, that's all the positions. You can't add anything else. But it just speaks to how great Jayden was to get us here. And again, he played well against the number one defense. The interception at the end, the kind of throw up, whatever at the end, it tanked his passer rating down to like 72. But before that, it was like 99. Like he was playing really well, not even including what he was doing with his legs. So I feel really good about this season. It just hurts that I walk away saying the three biggest plays of the game were made by De'Ami Brown, Jeremy McNichols, and Austin Eckler. That does hurt as a fan that those three guys decided the course of the game.
Yeah. You could tell what kind of game it was going to be. Washington, Jayden was really great y'all's first drive. He went like 17 or 18 plays, like 60 yards. Took like 8 minutes off the clock. It was a crazy good drive. Yeah. And then Philadelphia's first play, Saquon goes 60 yards. Like you knew this is going to be that kind of game.
That felt like Derrick Henry with Bama against whoever they were playing, Middle Tennessee a few years ago. That's what that felt like. So
it's not a creative play. It's not a ridiculous blocking scheme. We're going to put our big guys ahead of Saquon, and you're not going to be able to stop it.
Yeah, and so speaking of the Eagles, we can move to them. I mean, they look good. Some people say some people almost treat turnover battles like when they say like one team won the turnover battle. They treat it as random almost. They forced those fumbles. It was not like just weird, gimmicky, he was running, nobody touched him, and he dropped the ball. We fumbled because they made us fumble. Man, that defense is fast, and they get on you, and they tackle.
They're so much more athletic than y'all. Outside of Jayden and Terry, they were more athletic at every single level. Yeah.
And they played great. They forced the turnovers. It's not just like we gave the ball to them. They took the ball from us. They are physical. Their offensive line pushes people around. And it wasn't even my understanding from what I've just been gathering this week, listening to people who break down film and stuff. It wasn't even their offensive line's best game, and we couldn't get to him. We couldn't touch Jalen, and obviously Saquon. I mean, he had another thing that hurts is by the end of the game they were practicing. If they wanted to give it to Saquon, if they would have given Saquon 30 carries, they could have been blowing us out earlier. I feel like we were in the game because they were like, we need to work on some of this passing game stuff. So we're going to let Jalen work. And they were literally practicing most of the game. That's how talented
Saquon was
they are, man.
A little bit hobbled with an injury too. So, I mean, this was best case scenario for them because they didn't even have to lean on him. No. I think they were more than happy to give Saquon, I don't know how many carries he had, but I can't imagine it was a ton, I'm guessing 12 or so.
I think it was 15,
12 or 15, but he scores twice. Mm-hmm. Or
three times.
3 times. He scored 3 times. Y'all had 7 rushing touchdowns, or the Eagles had 7 rushing touchdowns.
Yeah.
Fun fact,
That's when
the
you know.
Cowboys only had 6 all season.
Wow. That's crazy.
I've been enjoying seeing that one. That's really funny.
But that's when you know that you're just not good enough. You're just getting pushed around. And that's what the Eagles do, man. They are physical. Saquon is obviously a monster to tackle. Jaylen is a bear to tackle. If he's healthy, he's a bear to tackle in the open field.
Something to note, he did not look healthy that game either. Like his quickness is gone. Like if there's a defender barreling down on him for a sack, like he ain't evading him right now. He's hobbled.
Yeah, it's strange a little bit because he had 3 rushing touchdowns, 1 legit one, 2 were tush push, and 1 like actual legit, I think it was like 15-yard rushing touchdown, and he looked fine on that. But in the pocket, moving laterally, I agree, he does not look very sharp right now.
Like once you get his momentum going, like he's still got his speed and strength and everything, but his lateral quickness right now is not there whatsoever.
Yeah, so that's something to watch. He gets a week off now, which is nice. That's something to watch for the Super Bowl. But they have Saquon, a bear to tackle, Jaylen, a bear to tackle, and now that Debo has lost a step, the hardest receiver to tackle in the NFL is A.J. Brown. It is just hard to get him on the ground. It really is. And
I would argue Chase is up there
so
too.
big.
Chase is not fun to tackle.
Well, yeah, but Chase is. It's so much different.
Faster, though.
AJ
He's
is just
faster.
so physical. He's so physical. DBs, he looks like Gronk back in the day. Like DBs just can't tackle him.
If
And they
AJ
didn't
catches a
even
pass,
use
he's
AJ.
getting an extra 5 yards no matter what.
Yeah, they didn't even use AJ like that really in this game. I mean, a big play in the game was a 4th and 5. I don't remember what the score was at the time, but it was like, oh, if they don't get this, we're going to get good field position, and we could have taken the lead. And it was like the second quarter, and they hit the deep ball to AJ down the sideline.
Yeah.
And so Jaylen played well. You can say he looked hobbled. He was throwing the ball well. He made the throw to Devonta Smith on the sideline on 3rd down. He made the big throw on 4th and 5 to A.J. Brown. He threw the touchdown to A.J. Brown. He looked good. Like Jaylen, that was the best game he's had in the playoffs for sure. Now you can say he was playing against a defense that was not what you typically see in the NFC Championship.
Y'all aren't even a top 15 roster total. Like outside of Jayden and Terry, like y'all don't have a top 15 roster. I don't know if you have a top 18 roster.
Yeah, but I'm going to give credit to Jaylen on that game. He played well. He made every play they needed him to make. When the game was in balance, and when I say in balance, even when it was a 2-score game, he was still making plays with his legs, with his arm. I agree. If we were able to pressure him more in the pocket, I think he would have struggled. I don't think he's moving well in the pocket right now, but downfield, like sprint speed, I think he's fine. And then, man, they're good. They're good everywhere. The Eagles, I said all year, I think the only team that can beat the Chiefs is the Bills. I actually think the Eagles could beat them. I'm definitely going to pick the Chiefs, but it's possible the Eagles beat them. Like it was not possible the Texans beat them. They were never going to beat them.
Yeah,
it is possible the Eagles could beat them.
After watching the AFC or watching the AFC Championship, I'm with you. I don't think the Chiefs lose this game. I think they win. But seeing the way the Bills were able to run the football on them with James Cook, I definitely think the Eagles' offensive line with Saquon Barkley, a better O-line, and an all-world talent at running back versus a running back who's pretty good in James Cook. I think they can run the ball on him, which is going to be a problem. The Eagles' defense is better than the Bills' defense, or at least it's more talented than the Bills' defense. So, no, I don't think they win, but they have the ability to beat the Chiefs. We'll say that.
Another big thing those turnovers did and gave them 21 points off turnovers, and so they had the lead in the 4th quarter. Man, it took away our trump card, our wild card, which was late game, 4th quarter, Nick Sirianni makes an egregious error. And we didn't get that chance because they were up so big. I believe that could still happen, so that's why I can't pick Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni over Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. I can't. It's not in me to do that, but
I'm not.
I honestly
think the right
think,
mind's going to do that.
No, but I think this team could beat the Chiefs. I think they're that talented that if the Chiefs let's say Now, the Chiefs are going to be way more ready for the moment than Washington was, obviously. But let's say Hollywood Brown fumbles, and then Kareem Hunt fumbles, and then they fumble a kickoff. And, it's not on Mahomes. He didn't turn it over, but the Eagles still get 3 turnovers. You going to tell me this team can't beat the Chiefs? I mean, now the Chiefs are going to be way more ready for the moment. Washington a couple of those guys looked deer in headlights, right? We fumbled the opening kickoff, and that's when it was we just didn't catch it, right? It ended up being a touchback, but we just didn't catch it right. And that's when I was like, ugh, that's not a great sign.
But then Jayden took the first drive, and I'm like, okay, well, if Jayden's going to be doing this kind of stuff, maybe they'll be fine. And then it just kind of all went downhill from there.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Washington had a very very narrow way to beat the Eagles. The Chiefs' way to beat them is much wider because of Reed and Mahomes and the defense. So the Eagles are going to have to play a much better game. I mean, you can say they played a great game this past game, and they did, but they overmatched their opponent. The first 2 games of the playoffs, they still didn't play that well. They're going to have to play better than that to beat the Chiefs.
And you can kind of say in a good way, they do get to halfway rest their guys because some of them didn't even play the fourth quarter. I don't know if Saquon played much in the fourth quarter at all, so that's good for him, I guess. But
no, I think they deserve it. They are the best team in the NFC. They played the best in the NFC. They're the best team in the NFC with all the Detroit defensive injuries.
I think Detroit's probably better head-to-head. Fully healthy, but
it would have been a fun one if Detroit would have stayed healthy. That would have been a fun one. I would have liked to see that game because if Detroit would have stayed healthy, they'd have beat Washington. Their game would have looked similar to that one probably, unless Goff just really did have a meltdown. I mean, maybe he still melts down with the defense out, but I think in the state of all the rosters at this point, the Eagles are the best team, and they're going to represent the NFC, and they should. I mean, like I said, Washington had no business winning the game last week. It had to be Jayden awesome, and they turned it over. And credit to them, they didn't do it, and they ran away with it in the fourth quarter.
Yeah. No, I do think the Eagles obviously take away Mahomes and Jaylen because that's not a comparison. But outside of that, the Eagles roster is better than the Chiefs roster. I don't think there's a question in anybody's mind there. No, but it's obviously you have to factor Mahomes in there.
Yeah, I would take. I think McDuffie's better than any corner or any DB the Eagles have. But as a unit, I think the Eagles are probably better at defensive back. I still believe Chris Jones is better than any defensive lineman. Sure. I know people love Jalen Carter, but I still believe he's the best. But defensive line as a whole, I mean, you might give that to the Eagles. The Chiefs, their interior offensive line when Joe Thuney is playing guard is probably the best in the league. But with their tackle situation, the Eagles' offensive line is much better.
Yeah.
With Rashee Rice being out, you'll love A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith more than their
I'll be honest with
core.
you. If Rashee Rice is healthy, I still would take A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith over Rice and Xavier Worthy. No discredit to them. They're great.
Right.
But A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith are 2 wide receiver ones on the same team.
Right. And their play style, the play style of Rashee Rice and A.J. Brown is actually pretty similar.
Yeah.
A.J. Brown is just a lot better at everything. He's just a little bit better at every part of the game than Rashee. And maybe Rashee gets there one day. Who knows? But the most important things, the most important positions in football, once you get to the Super Bowl, is head coach and quarterback. And it's not close. It's not close.
No, there's no comparison.
And so we can break down that game later. But the Eagles they're deserving to be in the Super Bowl. This is not like a Cinderella run with a team that's overmatched. This team is legit. This team
powerhouse.
is got dudes everywhere. And they're just praying their coach doesn't do something terrible.
Yeah, I mean,
I still don't think they like each other.
Who? Sirianni and
I still don't think Jalen and Sirianni like each other. And A.J. Brown, I don't think they like each other. I mean, you don't have to like each other.
They tolerate each other because they're in the Super Bowl.
Shaq and Kobe, I mean, they respected each other, but they didn't really like each other. Like, there's stories all throughout all sports history of teammates that just were not great friends, but they just worked together. I don't think those three like each other at all, but it works for them.
I mean, if you're in the Super Bowl, I think you can overlook it. I'll say that. You can overlook it.
They'll overlook it.
All right. Let's move on to the AFC Championship. Which is tough, man. We'll talk about the Chiefs, obviously, and I think they deserve all the respect in the world, but I do want to step in and speak on Josh Allen, and I it feels lazy, but this was not his fault, dude. I've never seen just a quarterback this unlucky, man. He played more or less a flawless game, I think. I mean, he didn't turn the ball over. The play calling was not good from Joe Brady. I think Joe Brady versus Steve Spagnuolo. I mean, sure, the Bills scored 29 points and Josh Allen was good, but in the moments, Spagnuolo ran circles around Joe Brady. But Josh Allen still was. I was a little worried, and I'll detract on him, I guess, a little bit. That first quarter, or especially the first drive, Josh Allen was a little bit wild.
Drive.
I was very concerned when I saw that, but he settled down, played really well. It's tough, man. If he doesn't win the MVP, we're looking at one of the all-time, at least so far, one of the most underrated quarterbacks. Maybe not the way the media talks about him, but just like he's kind of getting left behind in the history books just because he doesn't have any major accolades. He doesn't have any big wins in the playoffs, but everybody knows he's one of the best quarterback. If he's the second best quarterback in the league, you can argue the way they play each other in the playoffs, there isn't much of a difference player to player versus him and Mahomes. It's just Mahomes is able to win in the playoffs, whereas he comes in just short.
Yeah, that's an interesting point you made. I haven't thought about it, and I'm working this out in my brain right now. But you could easily say he is, in terms of accolades, not in terms of how people discuss him, in terms of accolades, he's the most underrated quarterback in the history of the league.
Yeah, because I mean, when you listen to any sports talk, like nobody talks bad about him. They're like, oh yeah, Josh Allen, second best quarterback in the league, but the history books are forgetting him basically.
Right, like if he retired today, football's different than baseball, Hall of Fame wise. I'm a peak guy in football. I want to see how good you were. If someone wanted to argue that Josh Allen should be in the Hall of Fame if he retired today, your argument has to be like what I watched. You can't make the argument based on accolades because the things people care about for quarterbacks, people kind of care about Pro Bowls, but not really. I mean, it's like the bottom of the barrel. What
Josh
people
Allen,
care
I think,
about,
even opted out of the Pro Bowl. Like he made it, but he's not going.
Right. But what people care about is conference championship games, Super Bowl appearances, Super Bowl wins, Super Bowl MVPs, and regular season MVPs. And Josh Allen, he hasn't made a Super Bowl. He hasn't won MVP, though I think he should win this year. And there's guys way worse than him, who have done those things. And it's hard to watch because I mentioned this to you earlier. Mahomes, coming into this playoffs, Mahomes owned every per game stat there is. He's number one. Passer rating, yards per game, all the stuff. He's number one in per game stats. Until now. Because Josh Allen has passed him in yards per game and in touchdown to interception ratio in the playoffs. Josh Allen's number one in the history of the NFL in those categories. And yards per game in the regular season can be kind of fluky because it's like you get garbage time, whatever. Not in the playoffs, you don't. Yards per game in the playoffs is a big stat. You're playing against the best teams. Most of the games are close, right? And I mean, he's had the blowout against like Mac Jones a few years ago. Like, he's had a few blowouts. But for the majority, the games are close. And what's important in the playoffs? Not turning the ball over. And he's number one all time in touchdown to interception ratio in the playoffs. Josh Allen is. He has been I'll get into this game in a second how he played, but he's been great in all four of these matchups. He's 0-4. He's been great in all these matchups. Like, if you look at the yards and the touchdown numbers of the games, he's essentially even with Mahomes. The difference is Mahomes has a better coaching staff, and Mahomes does it a touch more efficiently in these games. That's it. Like, it's not like it's a 10-8 round. It is neck and neck every game, and Mahomes has coaches that have big play. You said it exactly right. It's moments in these games. It's not quarters as a whole. It's not drives as a whole. It's moments. And Steve Spagnuolo and Andy Reid are phenomenal in the biggest moments. And Josh's teams let him down a couple times in those moments. I mean, obviously the Kincaid drop. Josh was fantastic in every drive except that first one, and you could argue the last one. The last one, he wasn't fantastic, but he made a fantastic play in the end, and he had a drop. I have nothing bad to say about Josh Allen. You mentioned the play calling. I thought continuing to go for the tush pushes. They were like 2 and 6 if you include the 2-point conversion.
They had already stopped it multiple times. Like, it wasn't like they stopped it once. They had stopped it multiple times.
Yeah, they stopped the 2-point conversion, and then they stopped it several times. Like, and you know, you think they got the first down on that fourth down? I don't know. I agree. It was super close. And you said this before the show, and I guess I do agree with you there, that the more angles I've looked at it and the more I've listened to some people talk about it, I actually do think he got it. I think in the angles you can see that he did probably get it. But you said before the show, like, if you got to look at it at this many angles, you can't really argue that much with the call on the field. So I do agree with you there, even though I do think he got the first down there. And we don't know for sure that changes the outcome of the game, because even if they score, Mahomes gets the ball back. Don't know exactly how it all would have played out if Allen would have gotten it again, but it is annoying as a guy who was really rooting for Josh Allen. But the only thing I'll say about Josh Allen,
Brady shouldn't have called that in the first place. Brady shouldn't have called it in the first place.
Right. Like I said, it felt like he didn't have a second pitch that he trusted in those moments. We were watching together. I kept saying, why are you not putting him in the shotgun, leading Ray Davis or James Cook, and just having him follow him? You're going to get 6 inches with Josh Allen. You're just going to. He's too big. He's too strong. He's too good in these moments. I could not understand why they were not doing that. They might have won the game if they just do that. If Joe Brady only changes that, they might have won the game. The only thing I think you can say about...
They probably get a couple more first downs.
Yeah, and they get the first down. There was like 13 minutes left when that happened. The tush push where he don't know if he got the first down or not. There was like 13 minutes left, but that was a huge point in the game. I'll say the only negative you could say about Josh Allen, I think, is the first drive was atrocious. I mean, that was just... He looked like a deer in headlights.
He was wild in that first drive.
Yeah. He got through it unscathed, and then the first 2 plays of the last drive, where he overthrew Shakir, it looked like there was a miscommunication, and then he kind of dirted one to Curtis Samuel. But other than those 4 plays, the guy was awesome. The Kincaid drop obviously was huge. I didn't love that on the last drive. James Cook, who was having a great game, didn't touch the ball. Didn't touch the ball one time. And it wasn't like they were rushing. They had 3.5 minutes and 3 timeouts, and James Cook didn't touch the ball. And he was having an awesome game. I didn't love that by Joe Brady.
On Joe Brady, I think. Yeah, that's not... Which, I mean, I guess, sure, Allen can audible into one, but...
Yeah, and we'll get into the Mahomes aspect of it when we talk about the Chiefs side. But I'll mention the Chiefs just for a little bit. We talk about moments. The biggest defensive moment for the Chiefs, Spags dials up something that no one saw coming. A blitz from the corner that no one picked up. Josh Allen even said he was fooled by it. Spags had it in the biggest moment. And then you think about the biggest moment for the Chiefs, like when they were trying to ice the game, was really the Samaje Perine little run out of the backfield where Like they had the 3 drags going from the left side, and he just squeaks out in the backfield, and it's just him and one defender are the only people on that side of the field. Those are plays that the Chiefs clearly saved for moments. Like they knew a moment's going to come up in this game, and this is when we're going to use it, and it's going to win the game for us. And it seemed like the Bills didn't have those pitches to go to in those big moments. And that's the difference in these games.
Yeah. It's weird because I know the Chiefs do that, and they've got these special situations. And you want to say the Bills threw everything they had out of them, but it still didn't look like the Bills threw everything they had. Like, I know I've watched enough Josh Allen that y'all did not fully unleash that man. And I know to a certain extent sometimes unleash Josh Allen is scary because he can make mistakes. But he played turnover-free football, which is great, but it's almost like they didn't trust him enough in that big moment, which is, I think that's on the coaching staff. That's not a Josh Allen problem. You live and die by him, period. You live and die. Don't take it out of his hands. Ever.
It wasn't even throwing the ball. It was just put him in the shotgun and let him go get a yard. He was going to get a yard. Like, I guarantee you this. I guarantee you every time they lined up for the tush push, instead of putting him in the shotgun and leading a running back and him following him, the Chiefs were thrilled every time. I guarantee you that. They were happy he was not back in the shotgun.
They figured it out.
Jim Nantz on the call said, we were sitting down in a meeting with Spags this week, and he told us every time they do the tush push, Josh Allen goes left. And they just kept doing it, and he kept going left. Like, they knew it. If they would have just had someone in the booth watching the game, Jim Nantz told them that. And they didn't switch it up at all. They were very predictable. And the Chiefs were not predictable.
One person say, like, they didn't change any protection stuff either throughout the game. Apparently they used, like, the same protection schemes and everything. So if you're not going to change anything, and Spags is sitting here watching it the whole time, you're gifting him this. He's like, okay, you're not going to do anything different? All right. Here's the most
good luck with Steve
blitz.
Spagnuolo.
Also, I saw on that last play, too, the 4th down where Kincaid dropped it. He had the corner coming also, but I want to say it was like Karlaftis or one of the ends. Like the lineman just completely whiffed. Like he never even touched him when he came around the edge. So Allen had like 2 guys in his face that he shouldn't have had that shouldn't have been there. And that was just a bad whiff on the offensive line. I thought
in moments the Chiefs are better, and it's because their coaches outcoach the other team. It's that simple. They just in the biggest moments they outcoach the other team, not just the Bills. Every team. When it comes time, because of their style of play, they don't typically blow teams out at all. So when it comes down to those moments, they win them. They win them. And here's the thing, and I always don't like saying this. This isn't true for Josh Allen, but I think a lot of the Bills truly don't think they can beat the Chiefs. Like, I think they almost have too much respect for Patrick Mahomes. There was a weird thing that happened when Kincaid dropped the ball. Someone pointed this out on TV today. When Kincaid dropped the ball, Deion Dawkins and Chris Jones were like hugging each other at the middle of the field, and like they were laughing and joking like the game was over. It was 1:40 left, and the Bills had all 3 timeouts. Like, they could have got him off the field and got the ball back. But Deion Dawkins is sitting there like, oh, the game's over. They're going to get a first down. It's just that mentality. It's almost like, but it's almost like in the moment, they're like, oh, he's too good. He's going to get it. And that can't be how you're viewing the game while it's going on if you're the Bills. And that's not true for Josh Allen, but it's true for a lot of the roster, I feel like.
Yeah. I don't know. We'll move on to the Chiefs, too, but, I mean, I hate it for Josh Allen, man. You could tell after the game and, like, during his post-game press, like, the dude was crushed. He gave everything he's got. It has never once been his fault they've lost to the Chiefs. The dude was devastated.
No. And they got the ball. They were driving, and they were down 3 right? They were down 3 and had the ball. That's right?
Yeah.
Yes. They got the ball, 3:30 left, down 3 with the ball. You would rather have that situation than if you were up 6, but the Chiefs had the ball. You would choose, I'll be down 3 as long as we have the ball. Don't let us be. So they had what they wanted. And again, the Chiefs coaches in the big moments, they just come through. They're good. They've been there so many times. So many times.
I hate that it's going to reflect, like, I can tell in 3 months they're going to be on sports talk, all this kind of stuff, and to be like, well, Josh Allen had the chance to beat him in the playoffs or whatever. When you up 3 and you had 3:30 to go, or down 3:30 to go, you didn't win it. But you got to factor in the coaching, and like they just outcoached him. It wasn't that he played bad in that moment. Spags had everything dialed up perfectly.
He had 4 bad
to
plays.
beat him.
He had 4 bad plays. And how many plays did they run? Probably 60. And he had 4 bad ones. I mean, you can't. And Mahomes had 3. Mahomes had 3 bad ones. We'll talk about.
Yeah, he fumbled
So,
twice,
I mean, it's not.
Didn't he? Or fumbled once?
He fumbled once and took 2 bad sacks. But, yeah. Josh Allen, I want nothing negative about Josh Allen. Josh Allen, and he was down 21-10 on the road in Arrowhead against Patrick Mahomes. That game could have been over. And what does he do? He comes back and he takes the lead, 22-21.
That was a gorgeous touchdown to Mac Hollins. To Mac Hollins, of all people. That's another thing. Like, I know we're spending some time here on Josh Allen and them, but like that's another thing, dude.
Let's do it.
He does not, and this is, again, it's not knocking Mahomes at all. Mahomes clearly has better weapons than Josh Allen. Like, Josh Allen's number 1 receiver is Khalil Shakir. Really? Mm-hmm. Like, Keon Coleman does nothing. So it's Khalil Shakir. His go-to guy on these 3rd and longs is Mac Hollins. Mac Hollins was like a wide receiver 5 on Atlanta 2 years ago. Like, who is this guy? So he's almost... Yeah. He's in his Mahomes, like, play style to where it is truly him fueling the offense, and he's out here doing it with nothing. Similar to what Mahomes did last year, to where, like, really, Juju's your best option? Really? Yeah. Rashee Rice came on at the end of the year? Like, I don't know. I can't say enough good things about him. Like, I have nothing bad. I want nothing bad said about Josh Allen. He's the second best quarterback in the world.
I think, if I'm not mistaken, Burrow did it when he beat Mahomes. But I think that's only the second time someone's ever been down 10 points to Mahomes and taken the lead. Burrow may not have been down 10. He definitely was losing. I don't know if he was down 10. But the 2 times Brady
were down like
beat him,
21-3, remember?
Yeah,
they were down 21-3. It was a
huge
deficit. They were getting killed.
That's the only 2 times. Because when Brady beat him both times, Brady was leading the whole time, both games. No one comes back against Mahomes, and he did it, and he took the lead, and the Chiefs just came through in the end.
Yeah, we'll move on to the Chiefs because I could keep going on Josh Allen. I'm sure you could too, but the champs deserve their flowers. They're gonna. I mean, I don't see a world they. I mean, I guess I see a world where they don't three-peat, and it's a world where the Eagles just are physically dominant, but they're going to three-peat in my mind. It's going to be a first time in NFL history you're going to see it.
I think that will happen, but I'll spend a little time on what's already happened. We were talking about it beforehand. Andy Reid has a serious chance to become the greatest coach of all time.
Yeah.
He's got 301 career wins. Shula is 347. Belichick's at like 333. Obviously, Reid has 3 Super Bowls. Bill has 6. But in 2 weeks, that could be 6-4. And he's 66. If he chooses to keep coaching, let's say he coaches 6 more years till he's 72. Do we think Mahomes can get 2 more Super Bowls in 6 years? I mean, he's not going to keep up the pace he's been on, but...
Are you sure?
I think that's definitely possible. Well, yeah. I think that's definitely possible. And so he has a legit... I don't think people talk about it enough. If he wins next 2 weeks from now, I'll actually be more surprised if he doesn't finish as the greatest coach ever. Because of when you look at what Brady did... He's the only one who got a three-peat. And when you look at what Belichick did without Brady versus what Reid did without Mahomes, it's not close. Reid got to Super Bowls. Reid was making championship games, and Belichick wasn't without Brady. So for him, and then in the biggest moments, he calls up plays that I saw since Mahomes. I saw this stat. Mahomes got hurt in 2019 doing a quarterback sneak. You remember that? He got hurt.
Yeah.
Since then, they have called 3 designed quarterback runs. One of them was on a 4th and 1 in this game, and the other one was his touchdown in this game. He did it twice. Twice in this game, they called him Mahomes quarterback run. It was the 10-yard touchdown he had, and then he did one on 4th and 1, where it was a designed run. He saves those wrinkles for these moments. He does. He could have used that any point during the regular season, and nope, we're going to save it, and we're going to do it here, and it's going to happen, and we're going to win the game. And that's Andy Reid.
Yeah. This is not, and it's again not to take anything away from Mahomes, but that last drive, the pass to Samaje Perine, that wasn't some unbelievable play by Mahomes. That was Andy Reid called up the perfect pass, little flip out. Mahomes doesn't do anything spectacular. He throws it 6 feet to his running back, who's by himself.
Fantastic.
Because Andy Reid schemed him open.
So the play itself is all Andy Reid. I could have made that throw. There's thousands and thousands of people who could have made that throw. Now, Reid having faith to call that play in that moment, that's Mahomes. Because if he throws an incompletion there, Buffalo's getting the ball back with a lot of time left. Now, they're out of timeouts.
That's right, they were out of time. But it was still, it would have been like a minute 30, though. It would have been a minute 30 they get the ball back. Even with no timeouts, Josh Allen can go 70 yards.
Exactly. So the being able to call that's Mahomes, but we've talked about I wanted to give some flowers to Andy Reid. We talked about Spagnuolo. I mean, we're looking at approaching, if they win, it's obviously the greatest 3-year stretch of any team ever. If they lose, you could argue it's the greatest 3-year stretch of any team ever. To win 2 Super Bowls and go to a third. The other one would be like Brady, like the Falcons Super Bowl, and then the Foles Super Bowl they lost, and then the Rams Super Bowl. They went to all 3 Super Bowls and won 2, and lost to the Eagles and 1, which would be similar to what Mahomes does here. But and there's probably a Cowboys one and a Steelers one you could bring up. But
the Bills went to,
if they win,
4 in a row. The Bills went to. I think they went to 4 in a row.
Yeah,
lost all 4.
They did, but they lost all 4. Yeah, but the Spags is the reason this defense has turned around the last really 2 years. I mean, up until 2 years ago, it was definitely more of an offensive team. But the last 2 years, Spags has dialed it up and won in playoff games. So he's been fantastic.
They're 18-0 in their last 18 one-score games.
18-0. Wow.
In their last one-score games, they're 18-0. That's you put that on Mahomes, but you also got to put that on Spags too. Like, good defenses are going to win those close games like that too.
Yep. And then Travis Kelce was not big in this game, but man, I mean, he's cemented himself as the greatest tight end ever. I think he did that a couple years ago or last year.
Yeah.
But
it's another of those situational things. Is like the great guys like Xavier Worthy had a really good game. He's probably in this moment their best receiver, healthy receiver they've got. But the no-name guys, when their number is called, everybody on the Chiefs shows up, no matter what. No matter what, doesn't matter, and you can, I guess, contribute that to Andy Reid and the coaching. Be it Samaje Perine, who only touches the ball once the entire game, on that third down in the fourth quarter. Be it Juju Smith-Schuster on 2 big catches,
2 big plays.
That's the only thing he does the whole game. Like it's Kareem Hunt, who before the season started wasn't even on a team. They pick him up and he averages 4 yards a carry against the Bills. Like it's whoever
What's the white
they
guy
need
who
to
caught the 2-point conversion? Noah Gray?
Justin Watson.
Again, I said it when we were at Josh's house watching the game. I said, these big moments, it's always somebody for the Chiefs, and it's their only touch of the game. And we saw that with P. Ryan and Justin Watson. It was their only touch of the game. Huge moments. And
these are not good players. Like obviously they're in the NFL, so they're good players. But like these are not superstars. These are nobodies.
Yeah.
And they make plays when their number's called.
Yeah. And so here's the thing. Here's what I hate. And I'm going to blame it is the NFL media's fault this season. This is their fault. When it's all said and done, if the Chiefs win next week, they will have an argument. They were the greatest team in NFL history. They're going to win 18 games. In the games they try to win, in the games Mahomes plays, they'll be 18-1, win the Super Bowl as a three-peat, and all year long, all I heard was the games are too close. They don't blow anybody out. They're getting lucky.
Year.
Blocked kick. And I'm thinking, but last year they were 11-6. This year they were 15-1, and that's all we heard. And then Mahomes, people are going to look back on this season and not understand anything about it. They're like, wait a second. They were back-to-back champs. They were 15-1. Oh, Patrick had to win the MVP, right? Nope, wasn't a finalist.
Not even close. Not even close to the MVP.
Wasn't a finalist.
He didn't even sniff
Patrick, well, of course he was a Pro Bowler. Nope, actually not a Pro Bowler. No. Oh, wait a second. So they must have had like 10. They must have had 8 Pro Bowlers on defense. Nope, they had 1. Oh, well, that one wasn't. He must have won the Defensive Player of the Year, right? Nope, not even nominated. They had.
Who was it?
I think
who made it? Was it McDuffie?
5 or 6.
Or Karlaftis?
It was either Chris Jones or McDuffie. One of them made it. One of them didn't. It was one of those guys. I think it was McDuffie. I think McDuffie made it. Chris Jones.
He's not Aaron Donald. I'm not going to say that. But Chris Jones has got to be approaching that level too. Like even when he's not getting stats, he affects the game in such a ridiculous way.
He's an anchor. And one of their Pro Bowlers is they had the defensive player. I think it was just 4 actually, because they had the defensive player and then they had the guard center guard combination. Well, their left guard isn't even playing left guard right now. He's playing left tackle because their left tackle was so bad. And people are going to look back and be like, wait a second, they were back-to-back champs. They were 15-1, and all everyone talked about was how they were going to go one and done in the playoffs and how this team wasn't as good as the last teams. And they literally were saying, this may be the worst Chiefs team of the Mahomes era. At the end of this, 2 weeks from now, they might say, this was the greatest team in the history of the NFL. I heard all year was they're not that good.
I don't
That's
like
on
Rex
the media.
Ryan
That is
as a pundit for sure. He's one of the ones who always is like, oh, this team is not good enough. He said this for 2 years in a row that the Chiefs aren't good enough to win the Super Bowl.
Right. But this is on the media. And I think this is part of why people don't like them as much. Because people hear this and they're like, the Chiefs are not that good. How do they keep winning? It's got to be the refs. It's got to be the fixes in. It's got to be this. Because honestly, if you watch these shows, they'll say, yeah, the Chiefs are good, but they ain't that good. They're barely winning. They're blocking kicks versus Denver to win games. They're getting fumbles against the Raiders. And I get it. They played close games. But my gosh, they are back-to-back champs. They are 15-1 when they're trying to win. And the media kept harping on, but they're not that good. They're not that good. This is not a great team. And we're 2 weeks away from them being called the greatest team of all time. The media's got to wear this. And they've kind of accepted it this week. I've watched some sports talk this week and they're like, we were wrong. The Chiefs were this good the whole time. So they've accepted it. But man, they got to take more responsibility than that.
Yeah. I mean, next year, I don't care if the Chiefs go out there and win their first 5 games by 1 score and don't score more than 20 points the whole time. I don't care. You have to say they're the best team in football. I don't care. I don't care if Mahomes has like 7 interceptions through 3 weeks and they're 3-0. Yeah. Like, I don't care.
That brings me to Mahomes. That brings me to Patrick Mahomes. And again, this is no disrespect to anyone else because there are great players in the NFL. There are great quarterbacks in the NFL, all in the AFC. But no one gets to be the best quarterback in the world other than him the entirety of next season, doesn't matter what happens. Doesn't matter. If Mahomes, if they miss the playoffs and Josh Allen, Lamar, Joe Burrow go on a crazy run and win the Super Bowl, Mahomes still gets to be the best quarterback in the league. It's too big of a gap right now to say otherwise. He has been in the league 7 years. He has made 5 Super Bowls. I mean, and yes, a big part of that is he got Andy Reid and he got Spags. And if Josh Allen and Mahomes were flipped, this would not be the case. Mahomes would not have gone to all these Super Bowls. He would not have won all these Super Bowls. But he did. And so the facts are the facts. I told you before, since he started 7 years ago, there have been 2 NFL games played total where he was ineligible to win the Super Bowl. Only 2 in 7 years. That doesn't make any sense at all. That makes no sense at all. He's had the greatest 7-year. He's probably had the greatest 7-year run in the history of the NFL, and it just happens to be his first 7 years. And he's done it. He's beat everybody. He has beat everybody. He's beat Burrow, other than Brady. He didn't beat Brady. Brady beat him twice, which is why I can't say, even if he wins
maybe
in 2
that's
weeks,
why
I can't
he's
say
on
he's the GOAT.
such a freaking hunt, and why he's so aggressive with this is like that's the only knock on him is he didn't beat Brady. He's 0-2 against him, so like he's like I got to win all these Super Bowls in a row.
Yep, and I think in 20 years when the GOAT debate's happening, I think a 3-peat will trump the 2 losses to Brady. I do think that.
Oh yeah,
because the first loss to Brady was his first year starting. So you can kind of write that one off because Brady was still in his prime. And at that point, Andy Reid had no Super Bowls. It wasn't like Andy Reid was in the GOAT conversation then. The second loss to Brady, I'll always remember. But they'll just look at the score and think Brady crushed him. I'll remember what happened in that game, and I'll be sitting on my lawn fighting some 20-year-old in 20 years telling him that Mahomes wasn't that bad in that game.
I want to make the same argument here for Josh Allen because I don't put that Super Bowl on Mahomes because if you watched it, you knew what happened. You knew he was smothered the whole game. He was making sideways throws, hitting guys in face masks. I'll make the same argument for Josh Allen because on that 4th down, he had guys in his face. He hit Dalton Kincaid. He dropped it. So, if we don't blame Mahomes for that Super Bowl, we can't blame Josh Allen for that last drive.
Right. Exactly right. I agree. But my point with Mahomes is, I mean, I listened all year to people say he wasn't the best player, he wasn't the best quarterback, and I heard people say it was Allen, I heard people say it was Lamar, I heard people say it was Burrow, I heard people say it was everybody. 5 days ago, I had to listen to a nationally televised show, the co-host, say the Bills had the quarterback advantage. There's one media member that drives me crazy, and oh my gosh, there's one guy. Anyways. But, yeah, I mean, we can't do it next year. We can't. I don't care what his numbers look like. We can't do it. He's the best player. We just have to say it. I don't care if he is 16 touchdowns, 12 interceptions through 10 weeks. He's the best player. And we have to admit that. And if he retired today, he'd be the second greatest player ever. If he retired today.
He's 29.
He's 29. And if he wins the next Super Bowl and if he wins next in 2 weeks and retires, you can't argue he's not the second greatest player ever. I guess there's some people now that would argue Montana and maybe a few for Peyton. But if he wins next week, you cannot argue it.
You can't argue Peyton right now.
You can't.
And I love Peyton.
Yeah,
Peyton's
I don't
one of my
think
favorite
so.
players ever.
I don't think so. I was Peyton Manning for Halloween one time. Love Peyton.
Dude, Peyton's awesome.
But
I love Peyton.
But you can't argue what we've seen. What we've seen. We can't do. I don't care what it looks like next year. We can't do the Mahomes isn't the best quarterback in the world. We can't. I don't think it's. No one in the league with him right now will ever. Probably none of the quarterbacks will be all-time greater than him. I think that's safe to say. But I do think if in a couple years they continue excellence and win Super Bowls and he doesn't, they could be the best player in the world. I think that's fair. But none of these guys are going to pass him as the all-time greatest.
The only way another player gets in the conversation is if Josh Allen wins the next 3 Super Bowls. Then we can.
You got to win at least 2.
Yeah, if Josh Allen goes 2 in a row,
win it.
which is not going to happen, obviously, but if he went like 2 in a row, then we're like, ooh, like Allen versus Mahomes. That's
Yeah.
Mahomes got slight.
Oh, he would get to be the best player in the world. He would get to be the best player in the world. Still, in the all-time quarterback rankings, Mahomes would be higher, but he would get to hold the crown as the best player in the world for a time. I said it 2 weeks ago. I said, if Lamar or Josh Allen, either one, beat Mahomes and then win the Super Bowl, they get to hold the crown as the best player in the world. With how this has transpired, no one else can. No one else can. No matter what happens next year, all season, he's the best player. And he's had the greatest start to a career of any player, maybe in any sport ever. I'd have to look. There's no baseball player that's been as good as him to start their careers, even though baseball's way different because it's much more about stats than winning.
I don't know much about NBA. Like, surely there's like somebody who's jumped out.
Magic
and like
would be the one.
Magic? Okay.
Magic Johnson would be the one.
I don't know
but he
much
had
about
Kareem
the NBA,
Abdul-Jabbar. He wasn't even the best player on his team, so you can't say that because he had Kareem. Baseball's much different because it's much more of a stats game than a winning game. Football's about winning, not stats. So, but I mean, he's done since he lost to Tom twice. He's done everything he can to catch him eventually. Like, there's nothing he could have done in the last since he lost to Tom that second time. I mean, I guess if he would have beat Burrow and won the Super Bowl again and been going for a 4-peat now, that would be better.
Can we say that everybody who is a Chiefs/Mahomes hater, you need to go buy a Joe Burrow Brady? Because without Joe Burrow, we're looking at 4 in a row.
Yeah,
or Jamar Chase jersey. Maybe that's the key. Maybe it's not just a great quarterback. Maybe you need Jamar Chase to make the difference.
Yeah. Mahomes, yeah, he's been fantastic. If you look at the 3 guys that have beat the 3 times he's lost, it's been just Tom Brady and Joe Burrow, and that's it. Could you imagine this? So when Mahomes first came in, everybody was pulling for him against Tom because nobody liked Tom at that point. Everyone loved the hot new kid. No one liked Tom. Now it's flipped. Everyone hates the Chiefs and pulls against them. Could you imagine if the Chiefs would have won that Buccaneers Super Bowl? He would already be the GOAT.
Because he beat Tom.
Because he would already have 4. Tom would have 6, and he'd be going for 5 in 2 weeks. Tom saved himself as the GOAT for at least several more years with that win.
He bought himself 5 years, probably.
He would have been known as the greatest player to ever play the game 7 years in. Without question.
I think he's already... He's not the GOAT, but I think he's already the best because Tom never was as good as Pat is. Tom was never this good. I'll say he's the best player I've ever seen, but I can't say he's the GOAT because he hasn't accomplished what Tom accomplished. He's not the GOAT yet, but I'm saying like he is. Tom was never this good though.
Right.
He hasn't caught him in greatness yet, but he was never this good.
Yeah, and so, it worked because Tom got Bill when it was more of a defensive league. So you'd rather have a defensive coach back then. Pat got Andy Reid when now it's more of an offensive league. So they got the best of the best. They really did. And that's what it takes. Like Michael had Phil Jackson, Tom had Bill Belichick, and now Patrick has Andy Reid. You don't become the GOAT in these sports at this position, and not at quarterback, without great coaching. You just don't. That's why Allen, Lamar, and Joe Burrow, they just start at a disadvantage when it comes to winning the Super Bowl every year because they don't have Andy Reid. They just do. And it's not fair, but that's how the game's played.
Yeah, if Sean McDermott ever wins a Super Bowl, it's because Andy Reid retires and whoever Pat has messes up, I guess.
If you look at the AFC, there's going to be really good quarterbacks who never get to go.
I think that's another frustrating thing as like somebody who pulls for Josh Allen is because obviously Mahomes is the Goliath, But like if Josh Allen went out there and like lost a shootout with Joe Burrow, like that's a realistic thing that could happen. And you can't be too mad. And like Joe is on a trajectory to where he could potentially be one of the all-time greats as well. Like Joe Burrow is that good. Lamar Jackson is playing the position differently than probably anybody we've ever seen. So,
Yeah.
I mean, there's just so many elite guys that you can't. If Josh Allen lost last week, that wouldn't have been his fault. Like, he played great against the Ravens. The Ravens were just better.
Right. So you think about it. Mahomes and Reed, let's say they have 6 more years together. Let's say they have 7 more years together, okay? 7 more years. Allen never made a Super Bowl. Lamar never made a Super Bowl. Then you got guys like Justin Herbert, C.J. Stroud, Sean Payton and Bo Nix, even a guy like Trevor. These are all in the AFC. Some of these guys are not going to make it. They're never going to get to make a Super Bowl. So, I mean, the AFC is so hard right now because everybody's good and everybody's young. And
this is great news for Jayden Daniels.
Yes, it is. But who knows about Cam Ward and Shador? Those are the 2 guys people like. Who has the top picks this year? AFC teams. Like maybe one of them falls to the Giants, but even if they're great, they're probably going to the AFC. The AFC is a tough business right now. It is a tough business.
How did it get like this? Like I don't. What went wrong?
So the Texans had a high pick to get CJ, but the Chiefs traded up to 10 to get Mahomes. That's another thing. I'm going to mention 3 things.
The Saints were going to draft him. Remember that?
The Bills. So Mahomes has outdone the Bills. Reed and Spags have outdone the Bills. The Chiefs front office has outdone the Bills because everyone remembers Xavier Worthy. The Chiefs traded to get him, and then he has his best game of the year against the Bills. Somehow people forget. No one talks about this. The Chiefs traded, or the Bills traded Mahomes. They traded the pick that was Patrick Mahomes to the Chiefs. No one talks about it. I don't know how that's not a big deal. Is that why
he's 4-0 against the playoffs? He's still pissed off
Probably.
about that?
Probably. When the Red Sox traded Babe Ruth, he kicked their teeth in every year. And maybe that's what Mahomes is thinking. And then, but also, I didn't remember this. So the DB went down early in this game for the Bills. What was his name?
Oh, I can't remember his name, but I know who you're talking about.
He lost with a concussion. So the guy they brought in, I can't remember his name either. I think it starts with a Z. The guy they brought in, Romo basically said, like, this is not good. You do not want this guy out there guarding the Chiefs, right? And Mahomes went right at him. 2 years ago, the Chiefs and Bills both needed cornerbacks. The Bills were about to be on the clock, and the Chiefs traded up 1 spot in front of them to take Trent McDuffie. And the Bills took that guy they had to bring in. Like, the Chiefs have outdone the Bills in the front office, too. And who knows? If Trent McDuffie's on the Bills, maybe they win last game. I don't know. It's the whole organization. It's not just Mahomes and Allen. It is the whole organization that has gotten outdone.
And it's sad because we're literally looking at an all-time great in Josh Allen. Yeah. If he has even 1 Super Bowl right now, we're looking at him and like, I know you probably disagree. I think he's the second best, and I think he's closer to Mahomes than you probably will admit. Like, obviously, I'm not going to say he's better than Mahomes by any means. I think he's a close second to Mahomes, but the difference is obviously the organization and all that other stuff, coaches and everything. It just sucks that we're wasting.
I'm not going to
sit
here and say if Mahomes would went to the Panthers, he'd be doing this. No, he's doing this because he got Andy Reid and Spags. But we don't grade people on a curve in history. It's just how many Super Bowls you win. I don't care who your coach was. That's how we view it. So, it sucks for Allen just because it's a whole organizational thing. It's a weird thing. No, why does no one talk about the Bills trading Patrick Mahomes? They said, you know what? We'll stick with Tyrod Taylor. We'll trade this pick. And then, obviously, they get Allen the next year, which is great, and he's the second-best quarterback. But, my gosh.
The Bills, I think
himself a little bit.
I think they are cursed. I mean, you go 0-4 in Super Bowls that while back. You're 0-4 against Mahomes in the playoffs. Josh Allen's about to be like 0-4 in the MVP race, even though he has deserved it more than once. And by the way, I personally identify with the Buffalo Bills because of my Mully team is also 0-4 in the championships, and Josh Allen is my quarterback. So I'm sorry, guys. Maybe it's me.
You just need
Maybe
to change your
the
team
problem.
name to the Buffalo Bills.
I did.
Did you really?
I really did. Check the Mully chat. It
You're
is the Buffalo Bills.
That's hilarious.
I'm the Buffalo Bills, and it's the team picture is like Josh Allen, like buried in the snow in like frustration. I'm gonna stay that until I win a championship.
The Buffalo Bills. It's hilarious.
So I love you guys. I love Josh Allen. I know exactly what you're feeling. What you're feeling right now. I just don't get paid as much as you. So really, what the moral of the story is, you should feel more sorry for me than them.
It all comes back to you, Ben.
It does. It does.
But should be a fun Super Bowl.
Yeah. Do we want to discuss any of that now, or maybe do that on a later episode? Because we do have 2 weeks before the Super Bowl.
Yeah, we're an hour and 10 minutes in.
You know what we do need to break down, and we need to go like another hour in this episode. We have not talked about the Pro Bowl. That's a big deal. There's a lot to break down for the Pro Bowl.
That's why I'm not too upset with Patrick Mahomes not making it, though that is crazy because Drake May is a Pro Bowler and Patrick Mahomes isn't, because I don't care about him going to play dodgeball and checkers or whatever else they do down there.
Josh Allen, I think Josh Allen made the Pro Bowl. He opted out. He's not going, which I don't blame him. I'm still pissed off. I'm not going to play games with these chumps.
Yeah.
Play games with Russell Wilson and Bo Nix or whoever made it. I don't even know who made it for the AFC.
Drake May and Russell Wilson are Pro Bowlers. That's ridiculous.
I think actually Joe Burrow's going. They said Joe's going. And I think Jamar Chase will be there.
Yeah. The Pro Bowl has such a good
Jamar Chase in
opportunity
dodgeball. I think Chase is nasty in dodgeball.
Right. I'm a history guy, especially with baseball. The Pro Bowl has such a good opportunity to be like a real thing that people have on their resumes. Like a Pro Bowler could really mean something because it's something that baseball and basketball don't have. Football, the Pro Bowl is at the end of the season. Baseball and basketball, it's in the middle. So there's literally people who will win the MVP in baseball and not make the All-Star team because the All-Star team happened in the middle of the season. So when I'm looking at who should make the Hall of Fame and stuff, I don't really value it that much because like it's just so fluky and it's in the middle of the season. Football is at the end. So it could literally be, you are the best at your position. You get this award. You get this honor. But it's not even that anymore because literally everyone gets to go and it doesn't matter. We're going to look back and we're going to be like,
who was it?
Wait a second.
Tyler Huntley made it last year.
Drake May.
Tyler Huntley.
We're going to look back at this season. The Chiefs, 15-2, 15-1 when they tried, maybe Super Bowl champs. Patrick Mahomes wasn't a Pro Bowler. Drake May was. What are we doing? What are we doing? I mean,
anyway,
it doesn't mean anything anymore. It means nothing.
Well,
that was my breakdown of the Pro Bowl.
On that terrible disappointment, we will wrap this up. Yeah, don't have anything else to say. I am excited for the Super Bowl. A lot of people are in there like, pissed off. I'm going to boycott the Super Bowl. I'm like, that's fine. You don't have to watch the Super Bowl. I'm still going to watch it. Like, I'm mad at Mahomes right now, but I'm still going to watch him. I've always been like an anti-Jalen Hurts guy. Like, I've never been a big fan of him. But, like, I just think he's overhyped. Like, I don't think he's as good as people make him out to be. But I do like Saquon Barkley. I don't like Nick Sirianni, but I do like A.J. Brown. I like Devonta Smith. So, like, I'm going to watch it. I'm not going to be one of those guys like, oh, my guy didn't make it. I'm not watching. No. Don't be like that.
Go watch history.
Yeah.
Go watch history. Number 3.
All right. That'll be it for us. We'll see you guys in the next one.